Hey guys, really quick, I wanted to take a second and talk about podcasting. Why? Because this medium has been the greatest thing to ever happen to me. A little over 5.5 years ago, I bought a $60 microphone and everything in my life has changed. I've gone on to build a successful business, live events, a lucrative speaking career, and I've been able to connect and become friends with some of the most influential thought leaders in the world, all because of podcasting. Now, you might not know this about me, but I've also helped multiple other people do the same thing. I usually work one-on-one with high-ticket clients to help them really build their brand. But so many people were asking me, Justin, I need to know the secret. So I've actually put together a masterclass. So if you head over to purposedrivenpodcaster.com, you can sign up for the masterclass today and learn exactly how I've been able to build this business, and you can too. This course is for wannabe podcasters and also podcasters who aren't getting the results that they want. Again, head over to purposedrivenpodcaster.com, grab your masterclass now, dive in, and take your life to the next level. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. I'm your host, Justin Shank. I'm an entrepreneur, speaker, and podcaster who years ago decided to go on a journey on how to grow in all areas of my life. What I found out was it's really a matter of focusing on the 4 pillars of life: business, relationships, spirituality, and wellness. And that's what we do here. We explore how to continuously grow in those areas, all while having a ton of fun doing it. I'm really excited you're on this journey with me. Now let's get to this week's episode. This week, I sit down with Liz Wilcox. You guys are going to absolutely love this episode. I met Liz a number of years ago while speaking at an event. At the time, she was an RV blogger who was looking to make a pivot in her life. Now, fast forward to today, she now shares stages with me. I consider her a friend. She's attended my events, and she is truly one of the go-to experts in email marketing. If you're like me, email has always been a chore. I looked at it as something that had to be perfectly crafted. I had to say the right thing, type the right thing, do the right thing. And Liz's approach has really changed that for me because it's super laid back and personable. She teaches everyone that it's okay to show your true personality in your emails and view it like you're writing a letter to a friend. And truly, her results speak for themselves. Now, in this episode, we talk about finding your own voice, being able to step into who you are authentically and using that in your business, and of course, the power of email marketing for any business. We also dive into tactics like how to have higher open rates and how to write subject lines and how to come up with ideas. So you guys are absolutely going to love this because email marketing is essential for every single entrepreneur, business owner, and anybody looking to grow a brand. Now, before we get to this episode, I wanted to acknowledge everyone who's written a review on iTunes for my podcast. I loved this review from Dr. Magic. He said, I love Justin's interview style. It's straightforward, relaxed, and authentic. He has some amazing guests too. The show grows as he does. So thank you so much, Dr. Magic. Greatly appreciate you for coming on this journey with me. Just super grateful for you continuously listening to the show. Now, you listening, I would love if you took a second right now to head over to iTunes and write a review. I want to feature more of you guys during these intros, so go write an awesome review. I greatly appreciate you, and hopefully you'll be featured on a future podcast. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Liz Wilcox. Liz, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I feel like I finally made it in life. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for the invite.
No, it's so funny because before we were hitting record and when I knew you were coming on the show, I started to think to myself, like, what's been the progression of knowing Liz? And I feel like it's changed who you are, not who you are, but what you represent has changed so much. But then our relationship has really grown, right? Like, so I met you at one of the things, what feels like 10 years ago, because the pandemic has slowed down time. And I was like, hey, I'm Justin. And you're like, I'm Liz. I'm like, oh, how'd you find out about the thing? And you're just like, I don't know. I live in an RV and I saw it and I saw I could drive here and I came here. And, and that's where it started. And then from there, you've spoken at the thing, you've been to our retreats, and really you're the master of email marketing, in my opinion. I pay for part of your services. I do all these things because I think that you're really, really good at what you do. And that's why we're here. But after my long-winded introduction of who you are, I would love for you to take a moment and just tell my audience, who is Liz Wilcox today? And then we'll unpack how you got there.
Sure. Just like Justin said, I focus a lot on email marketing in my business. So basically you listen to some kind of podcast And people, if you're starting a business and people say, oh yeah, email, and you get all hyped up, and then you go to your computer, you log on to ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit or something, and then you immediately feel stupid and like the wind was just knocked out of your sails. Like, I help eliminate that problem. I make writing emails super simple. And then in my personal life, I love to run, I love to tell jokes, and I live on the beach with my daughter.
I love it. And you said that perfectly, right? Because I have a decent sized email list, and I don't utilize it until I met you and I started to email more. I probably still don't email nearly as much as I should. I get that. But I'm getting there, right? Like, it's like a curve of me getting better. And a lot of that has been from, you have a membership that you offer. And a lot of it's been from the stuff I've learned from there. I'm like, wow, this is a great template for me to use. And it's easy, right? Because there's just that instant writer's block. The second you open up your email, I'm like, I sound really dumb. Like, why would I send this out in an email, which I love, but obviously when I met you, I don't believe email was your thing. And if it was very early stages. Am I wrong by saying that?
Yeah. So I think this email marketing thing, that's my third business. When I met Justin, I think it was like 2018, maybe 2019, like Justin said, like time is a social contract, like contract, folks. Anyway, I was an RV blogger, and how I got into the email actually was I was traveling around. I lived in 200 square feet. When I started my business, I didn't even have internet on my phone. I had to go to like laundromats and libraries and parking, Burger King parking lot. Shout out to Lowe's. They have the best free Wi-Fi if you ever need it. And so I really, I would listen to podcasts. I would hear, email marketing. If I only knew one thing back in the day, it was that I wish I took my email more seriously. And mama didn't raise no fool. So I was like, I'm going to email my people. I'm going to build my list like everybody says. Before we hit record, Justin and I were talking about efficiency and how we both really, really value efficiency. And to me, it seemed very efficient to just send out a newsletter, build my brand that way. And sell products that way. And it turned out it was totally right. And so when I met Justin, I was really, really good at email. Like, I would go to other people's events, like in the RV space, they host a lot of meetups, right? Because everyone's constantly traveling around. I think I've met over 1,000 of my subscribers through my RV blog, just from going to events. And people would always recognize me, even though I didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't have an Instagram following. My Facebook group was meh, but it was because of my emails. And they'd be like, oh, you're Liz Wilcox. You email me Sunday nights at 7 p.m. And I just love it. Like, oh my gosh, look, it's Liz Wilcox. And I would be at other people's events and they would be like, who the hell's that lady? They'd have 100,000 YouTube subscribers. But it was great because I'm looking at them like, I make more money than you do. And, my following is, 0.5% or whatever. Right. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And right before I met Justin, I had launched a course. I think within a month or two of meeting Justin, I had launched a course. I had 141 people on the wait list. And by the end of cart close date, whatever, I had made 141 sales. And so the more I started telling that's like freaking crazy. That is crazy. And when I started telling that story, people were like, what the heck are you doing with an RV blog? You need to be teaching us how you did that. Those people that I would go to their events and, be recognized without any sort of, quote unquote, online presence other than join my newsletter. They wanted to learn how to do that. So I ended up selling my website, selling that blog, selling that newsletter, et cetera, and moving all in on the email marketing. So email's always been my thing, but it hasn't always been at the forefront.
No, I love that story. And I think there's a couple of great things that people that are listening can take away, especially earlier on in the entrepreneurial kind of stages, or shifting and somebody going, look, I'm doing something that at one point I was passionate about and I'm just not anymore. And I want to shift. I want to go back a little bit to the time you're like, I sold my blog, I sold my email list or whatever. Yeah. I don't think people realize that you can do that type of thing. Like people think like, oh, it's just mine. And like, oh, I monetize it and who would want it and so on and so forth. Talk a little bit about that process from a teaching standpoint. So people understand like, hey, if you want to unload something, everything is worth $1, right? Like talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the digital world is a real world. Like, what do they call them? Like NFTs. People are like purchasing, digital prints, art, like specific code, pieces of code, basically. Like everything has value and anything that you create has value, right? Like it's a real thing. Yesterday, I joined a new mastermind yesterday, just of peers, and I met this woman, and she said, "Oh, I've got these 3 businesses. I need to drop one." I said, "No, you need to sell it." And she said, "What?" I said, "Oh, let me tell you something, right?" And as long as okay, let me backtrack. So, like Justin said, it was kind of this pivot. It was this thing that wasn't serving me anymore. When I met Justin, I went to the thing. I was like, I know RVing is not my thing anymore. Just for some perspective, my very first product was an ebook about poop. It was called Tales from the Black Tank. If you're not in the RV industry, the black tank is where your sewage goes. And so it was just a collection of funny stories. Some had to do with the actual black tank. Some of them were just crappy, right? And I made $7,000 from that. I had been in business like 7 months, and in business, published my WordPress site. But it was because of email marketing. But as time went on, I niched down into that. Like I was the RV poop lady. People were, starting to recognize me at campgrounds. "Oh my gosh, Liz, the black tank lady." And I'm like, I have a master's degree in leadership. I don't know if I really want to spend my whole life being this kind of jokester for the RV industry, right? I was starting to get more sponsorship deals. I was, I did a commercial for Camping World that aired on the Discovery Channel. Like I did big things.
Is that on YouTube? I have to find it. Is it on YouTube?
It is.
I'm finding it after this call.
Yeah. My daughter's in it. My ex-husband's in it. I love that it's, eternally immortalized. Anyway, but it was like, is this really what I want to be doing? I had a course that had over 400 students in the first 12 months, but it was like, do I really want to talk about RV maintenance the rest of my life? Do I really want to go to rallies and, teach people to hook up, their sewage? Is this really what I want to do? Or am I, thinking too small? Have I pigeonholed myself? And so I felt like the only thing to do was to sell the site. So, it's like when you have a real job and you change jobs, if you've got benefits, that 401k goes with you because you've been building value. So think about it from a business perspective, like all the things, all the videos I had made, all the sponsorships I had, all the, the email list with the crazy open rate and, customers, all that had value. So I said, I'm not just going to drop this and go, check out this other thing. So I started Googling like how I could sell my blog. And I actually ended up selling it to a member of my community. It used to be, well, it still is. It's called the Virtual Campground. And they just loved the idea of having this virtual campground, right? This campfire experience of, when everyone gathers around the campfire and we share stories and, we help each other out, and having this virtual space for that. And so it was a member of my community that ended up buying it. Now you can go into, there's lots of places like, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the names, but just Google it. But there are like flippa.com, things like that, empirebuilders.com or empireflippers.com, something like that, where you can flip blogs. Like it's a real thing. The way people flip real estate, flip houses, people flip blogs. And so somebody is out there, looking for your business. I just listed my second business for sale as well. So it's definitely a thing. Something that you create has value. If you're thinking of a pivot, definitely check it out.
No, I love that. And it's funny that you're talking about like flippa.com. And so I hate, and I'm sure there's people listening to this and they'll unsubscribe when I say this, but like I hate URL hoarders. Like people in like Facebook groups are like, I own 100 plus URLs. I'm like, you're doing nothing with any of that. Now I own 2 that I actually thought I was going to turn into a business. That's why I bought the URL. And I just looked them up on Flippa. I've done nothing with the website. It's just the domain name, and they're both worth over $1,500 each. So imagine building something on that drives more traffic and more under like all that stuff. Like That's absolutely crazy. And so when you think about it from that standpoint, that totally makes sense, especially when you're getting all the traffic and you have all the brand behind it. That's huge. One thing that I love about you is that number one, you're very self-aware. All right. You know who you are, you know what you bring to the table, and you bring it with such power. I'm curious. There's a lot of people who can't do that. They're not able to at this point in their life. What is it about you and your life that has made you be able to be unapologetically yourself?
Yeah. So I think I was telling this to Justin before we hit record. My mom really believed in me. And I know that's not the case with a lot of people and a lot of parents. Now, of course, she wasn't perfect. And, she yelled at me, and I've got some terrible experiences there too. But in her essence, she really thought I was like the smartest person ever. She didn't get past, I think, 8th or 9th grade. She was kind of a workhorse, always worked in a deli. And I just naturally got A's in school and did well at anything I tried. And so she was like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this before. And so I will say, I think just subconsciously, I've got a bit of a head start. But also as a kid, I think up until the age of 7, my sister lives with me. And so over the last couple of years, we've been kind of dissecting our childhood. And she said, remember when you didn't speak? And I was like, oh, yeah, I think so. And so I've rediscovered that I was selectively mute until around 7 or 8. So I was very shy. I know. Justin's face just was like, what? Yeah, I didn't. And now
you're making up for this time. You're making up for this time in your life.
Yeah. So hush, I got something to say. Yeah. And so I was just such a nervous kid, was so unsure of myself. And it was about, I was 15 or 16. My mother moved us from Michigan to Florida, and we lived in this 1-bedroom trailer. It was me, my sister, my stepdad, and my mom. And if you've ever seen like one of those movies where it features like really poor people constantly screaming at each other and throwing stuff, that was my childhood. And now we've got it in this 1-bedroom trailer.
I'm trying not to laugh. It's just how you say it. It's not what you just said. It's how you said it.
Right. Well, like I said at the beginning, I like to tell jokes. So it's okay to be laughing right now if you're laughing. I'm laughing too. And so I was sitting in a house class. I had just moved. I was a very weird kid. I didn't really talk. I went to a small school back in Michigan, and it had taken me up until 10th grade to make friends. And then suddenly my mom was like, actually, if I'm going to be poor, I'm not going to be cold. Let's go to Florida. This is outrageous. And so we moved like within 2 weeks, I think maybe 3 weeks. It was a very short period of time.
Crazy.
And so now I'm, super depressed. I had my own room. Now I'm living in this 1-bedroom trailer. We're constantly just at each other's throats, right? It's like rats in a cage. And I'm sitting in this health class, and this teacher says, happiness is a choice. I don't know what the hell she was talking about, but suddenly I tuned in and I was like, what the heck? No, the front of my mind said, no, it's not. You don't know my life. I started thinking about all the things I didn't have a choice in, especially as a kid. You really don't have, that many choices. You don't have that much autonomy.
No.
But then there was something in the back of my head that said, listen up. What if what she's saying is true? What if? And I started kind of trying to look at life through that lens. Like, I can be happy. I have no choice in where I live. I have no choice how I was born. I have no choice in my mother's career, et cetera, who she's married to, et cetera, et cetera. I have no choice in that. But if I can choose to be happy, what would that look like? And the first answer was like, well, maybe just being nicer to yourself. Like, I am who I am. Yeah, I'm weird. Yeah, my hair is super bushy like Hermione's. I've got a unibrow, but damn it, I'm funny and I'm not so ugly. So like maybe I can get that going for me. And so I just started kind of tuning more into myself, like Justin said, to bring it back, like becoming more self-aware when I was feeling something, removing myself from the situation. Like if, the home life was getting chaotic, just, literally walking away. We're in Florida now, so I can go outside. It's not snowing. And just, I had control. I was 16. Let's get a job. Maybe I'll make my own money. And just doing those little things step by step, the older that I get on just tuning into my thoughts and my feelings and constantly asking myself, well, what would that look like? Or having a reaction. I wonder why I react that way. Even the thing about, rediscovering that I was mute as a kid. What was that? Right. And just, unpacking that day after day and just asking myself anytime I have a strong reaction, whether it's good or bad, has really helped me become self-aware. And yeah, like if you're just listening to the podcast, you're not watching the video, like I've got NSYNC in the background. I'm wearing a headband. I've got a 32 ounce of Mountain Dew. Like I am who I am. And I don't know if I thought of this or if I heard it somewhere, but I think my mom said something like, it doesn't matter because I was so anxious and I didn't have a lot of friends in school. And she said, Liz, when you graduate, none of this matters. Like you're going to go off to college, you probably won't know these people, especially since you didn't grow up with these kids, right? Because I'm in a new school. She's like, it doesn't matter, right? And I thought about that. And so then something sparked, the brain waves. I thought, okay, so I'm going to be myself and people can look or they can look away. And I just started saying that. And I'm getting hives now because it is an emotional thing, right?
Yeah.
But it was, you can look or look away. That's your choice. I'm going to choose to be who I am. I'm going to choose to, take that wisdom from my mom of like, yeah, wow. Well, she said she doesn't know anybody from high school. And I've known her my whole life. That's true. So it's probably going to be true for me too. So I'm just going to do me. And I just do that every single day. And it's really worked out for my benefit.
Hey guys, really quick. I wanted to let you know, if you haven't already heard, May 20th to 22nd, 2022, Growth Now Summit Live is finally happening. I can't wait to get in the same room with everyone and dive into business, wellness, spirituality, and relationships. I'm bringing in some of the world's top thought leaders to pour into you, to teach you, to connect with you, and build long-lasting relationships. One thing I've learned over the last 2 years is that there's nothing more important than community. So head over to growthnowsummit.com, grab your tickets today so you can come learn and hang out with me, Nick Santanastasso, Brian Bogert, Kelly Chase, Chris Van Vliet, Susie Miller, and so many more people to be announced soon. Ticket prices go up soon, so make sure you head over to growthnowsummit.com and grab your tickets now. That's so powerful, like what you just said, to be yourself, and you can either look or look away. And you especially think like, when you're younger, you do feel like everything like that matters, right? Like you think that it's the end of the world. And I've had certain instances. So I moved after my sophomore year of high school. I was forced to move, and it was very quickly within a couple of weeks, just moved to a different school district, same state, but far enough away that I wasn't getting back to where I grew up.
Right.
And, I was the poor kid in a rich school at that point. And I remember kids, looking at the tags in my clothes and saying, "Oh, you shop at Boscov's." And if you're not from the Northeast, Boscov's is a convenient or like a department store.
Convenience store.
It's a department store on the cheaper end of the spectrum, right? And so,
yeah,
I felt like that was the end of it. So I had to play this role of who I was. Now, I didn't have a parent say to me, something like your mom said to you. So it wasn't a realization till I was older, and the realization of like, wow, people actually like me for who I am. And so I am just me, right? And I say things that are off color at times, and I say things that don't make sense sometimes, but that's just who I am. And I think that just so much powerful. They can either look or look away, and who cares either way, right? And like you said, it works out in your favor. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, what is your superpower, right? And that's at this point in your life, it's email marketing. And not only that, it's really about engaging people, right? I love your approach to emails, and I'm going to botch it and you can fix me. But not fix me, but fix what I said. Nobody can fix me. We're past the point.
It's going to take a couple episodes. That's going to be a series, folks.
Yeah. But you talk about how like, it's just like writing a letter to a friend. Something similar to that, right? Let's talk a little bit about your approach to email marketing and why you feel it's so effective, not only for you, but for your clients.
Yeah. So I think I do email a little differently. And like I said, when I started my RV blog, I didn't have much internet. I didn't have any clue what I was doing. I just kept hearing this email thing. But but I also didn't have a lot of time. My husband at the time was in the military. He was gone a lot. I had a toddler. And so I didn't have a ton of time to like consume content. If I did, I would have heard the tell stories advice. But I didn't hear that. So I was like, what the heck do I write? And so I just started giving personal updates because I started my newsletter as, telling people right off the bat, like, this is going to be my moneymaker one day. Like, I know I just started this blog, but I'm going to be like so-and-so. You're going to see me traveling around and I'm going to be selling product. Like, I was just so upfront. I'm very upfront with people. And I wanted to take people on this journey with me. Like, oh, my blog is going to be like how Liz hits the road, how Liz, starts creating products so that, we can actually hit the road. And so these little personal updates started happening where it's like, oh, hey, this week I wrote a new blog post. It was really hard. I had to do it, at 4 a.m. before Ed left the house or whatever. Here it is, right? Just super short, to the point. Again, I didn't have a lot of time or energy for this, but people kept telling me it was lucrative. So I was like, well, I need money, so I'm going to try that. And so it's evolved into, just like Justin said, the advice that I did here was like, write to a friend. And so in my head, instead of like trying to write to, I don't know, my best friend, right? Like, that wouldn't make sense. My best friend is not reading my blog. So I think of it as like, let's say, you're all grown up. We were talking about high school. So we're at the grocery store and suddenly we turn the corner and we see an old high school buddy. Oh my gosh, Justin, I haven't seen you in forever. What's up? Oh, nothing. I got this podcast, Oh, you've got a podcast? That's so funny. I do email marketing. I teach podcasters, how to write consistent newsletters to get more downloads. Holy shit, Liz, that's awesome. Let me I need more tips, but I've got to go. Lauren's kids are in the background. They just pierced a jug of milk. Like, here's my phone number. Shoot me a text, right? It's that kind of friend, like someone you're familiar with, maybe somebody, think of it as somebody you used to know, but now suddenly you have this mutual interest, right? We're both interested in digital marketing. So now I'm going to start, sending tips and stuff to Justin. But since we are friends, since we used to know each other, right? I'm also going to give those personal updates because he wants to know, like, I want to keep that connection alive. So like, hey, just recorded a podcast, blah, blah, blah. Here's my new blog post. Or, went to the beach all weekend. It was awesome. Got too drunk in New Orleans with Justin Shank and slept through the first thing. But what I really want you to know is I've got 3 new Instagram reels. Go check it out. Like, that's the entire newsletter, right? And so it's just that friend that, has that mutual interest, is really, really interested in what you have to say. But also just make that personal connection every week. You don't have to tell this big story. If you don't have time to write a story, chances are your person, especially now in this post-pandemic life we're living in, where we just live online all day, chances are they don't have time to read it, and they don't want to read it, and they're burnt out with everyone trying to tell stories. So that 2 to 3 sentences is just enough to keep that connection going. And then you provide value with whatever you're sending them. And you do that on a consistent basis, relatable, and you stay top of mind, like, boom, you're in.
Yeah. And I love that too, because I don't read long emails, period. Like, if it's too long, I don't read it. Actually I've opened a number of emails in the last week where I'm like, oh, I like this person's information. I start to read it and scroll, and I'll scroll to see how long it is before I go back up and read it. And so for me, like, that's the perfect like snapshot of, hey, quick to the point. Let's relate to each other. I'll let you know a little bit more about me. That way you feel like this is a personal note, and then boom, right? Add value, and then, potentially sell something. And I think that's huge. So hopefully your next letter will say, hey, sorry, I'm a little late with this. I got a little too drunk in Orlando with Justin Shank. And so, no, but with that being said, right? Like, I think it's an absolutely genius way. Now, I know that there's people listening to this and they're like, wow, like, I wish that I had an email list that I could write these emails to. Do you have any tips or tricks for people listening to begin to build that email list?
Yeah, sure. So if you're just starting out with your business or your email list, the simplest thing, and this is what I've done for all 3 of my businesses, is I get on Facebook and I just hype it up. Holy crap, I'm starting this new thing. Like when I started my RV blog, and I didn't even know this was a strategy. I guess, it's just in my personality to talk about myself. I'm now on a podcast, like surprise, surprise. But it doesn't have to be in your personality. You don't have to be this loud extrovert. But if you are going to build a business, you have to know you have to market yourself. No one else is going to, even if you have a marketing team, you are chief marketer. Okay. Like that, those are just facts. Sorry.
Yeah. It's true.
So get on Facebook, talk about, and Mike Kim, I think I heard this from Mike Kim many years ago at a conference. And he said something like, what pisses you off about your industry or something like that. And so that is the angle you're going to take. Like, and that's why you got into business, right? Like there was something that was annoying or pissed you off, or you saw a gap, right? So lead with that. So with the email marketing, it was something like, I've been in business. I've been a blogger that doesn't blog for 3 years, and somehow I make more money than all my friends. It's so sad to see all my friends creating these courses and then, launching to crickets. I'm going to start a newsletter to teach you exactly how, I sell with my email list and have an open rate of this and a click rate of, whatever details, I'd love for you to sign up if that's something you're interested in. And then I just linked the newsletter. And I did the same thing with my RV blog. I was like, holy shit, I just moved into an RV. I'm starting this blog. I'd love for you to come along if you're interested in RVing. And so just being excited about it, putting it on Facebook, getting a few people, start emailing right away. Even if it's just your mom, Justin, and Liz Wilcox, you got to get that, you got to get that muscle toned, right? And then just, you create a freebie, create some kind of, incentive for people to sign up after, and just start putting it in places, putting it on social media, asking your friends to share. Hey, do you know anybody that's, interested in personal development? I just created this 5-part video series, whatever. Right. And just kind of being shameless about it. I mean, don't spam people. Nobody likes spam, but being unapologetic and saying like, hey, this is my new thing. I'm really excited about it. I think you would be a good fit. Or do you know anybody? And that's the best way to jumpstart your list. And then how I do it is, honestly, I do podcasts like this. I just tallied it up this morning because I was super curious. And I've done over 70 interviews this year. So I think it's something like 60 podcasts, some digital summits, and some other like in-person, other weird stuff that's not categorized. And that is honestly the best thing when you can when you have your message mastered and you can get on an interview and say, this is what I am. This is who I'm about. This is my superpower. This is how I can help you. It's going to build your list so quickly. And podcasts are evergreen.
Yeah. I mean, they really are out there forever. I have people, I had somebody from the UK reach out to me probably about 4 months ago or so. And she was like, hey, I heard you on this other podcast. I did an interview in 2018. She's like, I just heard you on this podcast. And she's bought my courses. She's, obviously she's not in the States, so she has no plans to come to my event because nobody can leave their country right now over there. But hopefully she can find a way to my event one day. And like, she's super engaged with everything. And that was something I recorded back in 2018. I love that you mentioned that. And being able to get in front of other people's platforms is something that's huge, right? Because you're going to win over whoever you win over. And those people are interested in listening. So I normally wait to say this, but this is the perfect time. How do people get more from you? How do they sign up? How do they get your newsletter? What's all the good stuff?
Yeah. So you can just go straight to lizwilcox.com. In the top right-hand corner, there's a hot pink button that says free email swipe. So if you're interested in email marketing, if you're at that place, like, oh, I wish I could build my list, or I don't know how to even start, I've got a freebie out there. I get some people sometimes. I've got an entire welcome sequence to help you through that. I've got newsletter examples, and I have 52 subject lines. All that's for free because I really I'm really on a mission to make sure everybody, no matter what your business is, knows that email marketing is possible. It can be simple. So that's just in that top right-hand corner. I know Justin mentioned something about my superpower is email marketing, but I believe my superpower is like keeping things simple. I always we have this joke, Justin and I are in a mastermind together. And we have this joke, like, I think one time I said, like, I'm a 2-step bitch. I don't do it if it's 3 steps. But that is so true. Like, I don't like to do things that are complicated. Like, I'm self-aware that I get too confused, and too confused is inefficient, right? I'm not efficient when I'm confused, or I'm trying to, I'm tired from climbing too many rungs in a ladder, right? So I keep things very simple. And so that's what I want people to know about email marketing. That's where I think I'm a little different. Is I'm not going to give you dusty advice about telling stories or funnels. Like, everything that you get from me is like wicked simple.
I love it. So obviously, if you guys want to learn from the 2-step bitch, it's LizWilcox.com with an X, not CKS. I don't even know if there's a Wilcox that way. So my mom's maiden name was Wilcox. But that was my mom's maiden name without the S. So her last name was Wilcox. CK.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
It was a rough one growing up for her, I'm sure.
I can imagine. Okay. Wow.
Just throwing that out there. So, one question I love to ask every single person on the show, because I have the opportunity to sit down with some of the most successful people in the world. So my question for you is, it's a 2-part question. First part is, what is your definition of success? And the second part is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Sure. So I actually have a sticky note here of my definition of success. It says, I strive to be an example of what's possible. That's success. And so, like I was saying, everything is simple for me. And, that's because I really want people to know, like, it's possible. I want people to look at me and think, okay, if Liz got that done, maybe I can do it too. Yesterday, I put an offer out there a couple of weeks ago, like, you want to get your Black Friday stuff done? Like, let's just hang out on Zoom all day. And, I'll give you some templates and we'll just get this shit done. Like, and that's what I had someone say, like, holy crap, this was the most productive I've been in years. And so everything that I do, like, whether it's putting an offer out there or even in my personal life, trying to, change the way my finances are, a couple of years ago, this is going to sound really like webinar salesy, like infomercial, but like a couple of years ago, I was living in a trailer park in an RV next to a guy who refused to wear a shirt and didn't have any teeth. Like, shout out to Jamie, wherever you are today. If you've ever been in an RV park, it's, when I say neighbor, like, we basically lived on the same lot. But now I'm like in this beach condo. I go to the beach almost every single day. Like, I'm living my best life. And it was because I kept things simple. It was because I strive to be an example of what's possible. I want people to look at me. A lot of people don't want people to look at them. I do. I want people to look at me and say, okay, she got from A to B. I can too. She kept it simple. I can too. So that's my definition of success. It's not the typical, having enough money to XYZ. Like, I really want, like, I've changed so much. Like I said, like, I used to be mute, lived in poverty. Now you can't shut me up. I haven't even gotten to the second question yet. Just sitting in my beach house. Right. But I've changed so much, and I truly believe others can too. So that's my definition of success.
I love that.
And then the 3 things. You said, what are 3 things I do every day to make sure that's possible?
Yep.
Well, number 1, I just show up. I show up for my business like it's a business. Even when I wasn't making any money, I sat my butt in the chair, or I was thinking about it, whatever it looked like that day. So my daughter lives with me, my sister lives with me, and with them, I just really try to show patience and, different perspectives to show, like, hey, if I've gotten out of X, like, you can too. And then the third thing that I do, I think, is just keep things simple. If I was trying to complicate things in my life, no one would be looking at me as a role model. I wouldn't even be so self-assured, right? Because I keep things simple. I'm able to do so much for others.
I love it. So I wrap up every single interview with the same question. Since the show is called The Growth Now Movement, that question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Well, when I was a girl, my mom said I grew 2 inches over the summer. It was the last 2 inches I'd ever grow. I'm 5 feet tall. It's a short person joke. The biggest growth I've ever had, honestly, I think was last summer-ish when I left my husband. Well, it was a mutual thing. It was like this, we're clearly not getting along. And like that dynamic is a detriment to our daughter. And just being able to leave and, sign a lease on this condo and take that leap of faith in myself forced me to, sit down, work the numbers, talk to my bookkeeper. In the last year, in December of 2020, I put myself on a very strict salary, in case something happened to me. And this year I've been able to save like tens of thousands of dollars. And now I can retire part of my business. I don't have to do services anymore. And it was just taking that leap of faith in myself. Because just full disclosure, part of the reason why I got married was I grew up very poor. This guy was in the military. I mean, not that I didn't love him. I love you, Ed. I still love you. Just not in that way, babe. But part of that was for financial security. I grew up, my mom was very poor, and she said, marry a rich guy, or, it was that princess syndrome, right? You need someone to save you. And just taking that leap and saying, no, I can do this myself. I've been proving it for years. I've made money. I sold a freaking business. That has made me so much more confident, so much more Liz Wilcox, so much more even aware of the good and bad about myself. And I always tell people, like, now in the last couple of years, even before I left, I'm teleporting. Like, I'm not growing step by step. Like, I feel like I'm just teleporting to different stages, and it's wild. And I really think it was just taking that leap of faith in myself.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And one thing I will say, I told you I was part of her membership. So Liz just made money off of me during this call. During that last answer, I just got an email saying I got my receipt from you for your membership.
You're welcome.
Very weird. Very, very, very weird. But Liz, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your story with my audience. This has been absolutely phenomenal. And I've loved getting to know you over the last couple of years, and, having our friendship grow, and hopefully it continues to grow. And I'm just really excited to see you in a couple of days. And then I'll see you again in May. That's a little fun fact. I didn't say it on here. You're going to be actually at my event as a movement maker on a panel, which I'm super excited about. But there'll be a whole nother announcement for that as well. But thank you so much. Seriously.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.